This video is for trauma interested or focused or informed therapists, coaches, or facilitators, or anyone that's done quite a lot of work on themselves and wants to have a different angle to understand trauma work done properly. I'm going to break down the trauma triangle within. This is a model or triangle that I have started to develop to be able to just help people understand how this work works. Now, you might have already done a lot of work on yourself, so bear with me if this does feel a little bit like a basic retraining. Now, that doesn't mean it's been taught in this way. So let's slow it all down and deep dive. If this is something you haven't heard before, then just be gentle, soft, compassionate with yourself, as it can be big. So we start with the wounded child. What this means is essentially somewhere in our life where we had been impacted. So early on in our younger years in our development, then we had a less than nurturing experience. So it means that maybe something was too big, maybe something was too soon, maybe something was too fast, and our nervous system couldn't handle it. We might have been left, we might have been rejected, we might have not been able to get our needs met. Now, this can be as small as not being able to cry because it wasn't allowed, or as much as my dad left and repeatedly I was alone. So there's a massive spectrum, but essentially, as we can get, this would create a wound. Something has impacted me. Now, no one wants to be impacted like that. No one wants to stay wounded. So the natural progression in this triangle is doing whatever it takes to survive, which means don't be this. Don't be less. Don't be too vulnerable. Don't be out of control. Do what it takes to adapt. Now, we're very good at adapting. We've been doing it and for millions of years. And this is the idea that what this will mean is more pain and more disconnection. So I don't want that. So I've got to do what the system requires. So my family system might need me to be a good boy. Then that's what I'll fucking do, right? So the adaptation is what I like to call the adapted teen. So let's say, and again, I'm just going to crouch for this bit of the video. Let's say I am the wounded child and I'm here and I'm exposed and I'm less than and I'm curling up into my shame. And this is something that feels really uncomfortable and really alone and maybe lots of fear, pain, and shame. So naturally, no one wants to feel this. So along comes the teen, the adapted, defensive, protective part of us that essentially steps in to do what it takes to protect. Now, as this little wounded is here behind me, at no point do I look back and see if he's okay, because I'm actually more interested in scanning the external environment to keep us safe, to keep the system safe. So this little adaptive part of me has then learned what's going to be the best thing to survive. So it might be, I've learned how to protect myself through being perfect. I've learned how to protect myself by never having my feelings. I've learned how to protect myself by being perfect. Now, what does the system require? A very good example is when someone feels out of control, wounded, then they move into control. When someone feels out of control, they want to move into control because naturally that's going to help us be in more control. It's a very good survival strategy. The thing is, all of these things eventually, as much as they've kept us alive and survived, they have a cost and consequence. Now you can imagine the teen, if I come back over here, that's been doing this for a really long time. They don't know another way, but therefore they just keep doing it. So you might be a perfectionist and you've been that perfectionist your whole entire life. You might be someone that's always been a people pleaser. Now, that can mean that you lose relationships, it means you can lose connection, it means that you can not be able to cope, so you go down the drug and alcohol path, whatever it is, essentially, that we will do what it takes to survive, but those will have costs and consequences on us. But it's all this teen knows. So, the more that job is done by an adaptive teen, the harder it gets. Because what doesn't happen for a lot of people's experience is that the functional adult isn't able to meet them and try and do it a different way. Protect this wound or heal this wound through a different experience. A lot of the time it's because this teen thinks no one can come in here. No one's allowed in. We've got to keep them, and by whatever means necessary, keep them down here, keep them impacted. And that can mean shaming them. That can mean pushing them away. That can mean no one's allowed to see them in their feelings. Problematic. So, if I come up here from the triangle, I've written the word abandoned. How it works is our adult self, our authentic self, our true self, who we genuinely want to be, isn't something that's just abandoned the little part of me that was scared and never able to feel or love or be seen or heard or whatever the core belief is that started to become true and real for the original wounds, the root cause of things. They also abandoned the teen, leaving it up to the teen to survive, leaving it up to the teen to do the protecting of the entire system. So the trauma triangle is about understanding that we are leaving it up to the protective and defensive parts of us when things get hard. And this is why we act out, behave, and respond in certain ways. Now, if we're abandoning the wounded child, because every time it gets hard we jump into this, then we're also abandoning the teen. So the cycle repeats itself. We get impacted in the wound, we protect ourselves, and we abandon that part of us that's protecting ourselves, and so on and so forth. Now, how that looks is starting to look at how you feel, authentic you, feels about this guy or girl, teen, that we keep fucking up. Perfectionism is getting us too much anxiety. People pleasing is pushing all our relationships away. Getting angry is starting to push our relationships away. Controlling everything is becoming too overwhelming. Overachieving is leaving us too burnt out. So the relationship that our true self has with this protective part of us isn't good. It's actually really fractured. So we actually shame it, or we actually push it away and exile it. I don't want a part of you. I don't want to be seen with you. I don't want a relationship with you. You cause us too much pain. So we abandon it. That's really sad, but I would really like you to think about, how do I feel about the things or the shadow parts of me that show up? How do I really feel about or feel towards that? Now, a lot of the time it will be negative because it creates consequences. So it's like, I don't like that part of me. I don't like that I get angry. I don't like that I'm a perfectionist. I don't like that I can't sleep. I have anxiety, blah, blah, blah. Makes sense. The thing is, each time we keep abandoning this whole system that's set up to survive us, to keep us from being harmed, the more they're just going to double down and do it. They're not getting an alternative. So coming back to this model where if the parent all of a sudden, this is the parent I look at as the functional adult, that really needs to show up and come through to reclaim this whole entire system, then this teen is going to be like, who do you think you are? You're finally going to show up? You've abandoned us. You've abandoned us this whole time, and now you want to try and do things differently? You want to start eating well, sleeping well, doing mental health work, doing some therapy, coaching, whatever it might be. Well, I don't trust you. I've got it. I'm just going to keep controlling. So until we can show up and start to meet this teen and understand it, acknowledge it, have compassion for, they're doing whatever it takes to survive, even if there's a cost and a consequence. So what is it that we need to do for them? We can no longer abandon the teen, which means that we can then be and give access to the wounded child. So I'm going to tell you the 4 steps that I think are important in being able to reclaim this. Firstly, we've got to get acutely aware. Now, in the self-worth model, acute awareness is the guts of my programs. Now, what that means is that we're not just understanding and having insight and knowledge around our trauma, around our past experiences, around how we show up. We're actually getting really clear on what was the original wounds or the original beliefs that shown up that made us start to think the way that we see ourselves. For me, it is, I don't matter, I'm not good enough, and unlovable. That's ancient. Probably around 5 is where it started to become something that I would question and start to kind of then go, is this true or not true? And then I built evidence for it pretty much my whole entire life. So that in relationships, when something hurts and I get triggered, I think I don't matter. I'm not being seen or understood. I'm not doing enough, so I can't get them to love me, right? Or I'm unlovable because they won't stay. Lots of different experiences that show up and make this all a bit of a mess. But what I'll do is I don't want to be wounded, so I'll come in and do whatever it takes to matter, to be enough, to be lovable, whatever means necessary. People pleaser. My worth was based on others. I would do whatever it takes to matter. 5 love languages, I wouldn't just give you the one that works for you, give you all fucking 5, right? So this was a mess for me. I was constantly trying to figure out how I didn't have to think that I didn't matter and never get to that point. So I was hiding from the wounded child and doing what it takes to not actually see him. What was needed is being able to deeply and acutely understand this and then meet the part. What I mean by that is showing up for a teen in a way that tries to understand where they're coming from. What role does this protective, defensive part play? So my people pleaser that did whatever it takes to be worthy was literally fighting to be enough. Where that started was this seed that was planted that he was never enough to begin with, which is flawed, which is distorted. We are born inherently worthy, and somewhere along the line, 5 years old, I started to doubt that based on my experiences that were less than nurturing. So this teen has been doing whatever it takes to not have to feel that, to not have to experience that. Now, I have so much compassion. If that's the path that he was going to take, just to survive. So I'm finally meeting this part, not with hatred, not with criticism, with love and compassion. Now, did it fuck up my life? Running that fucking protocol the whole time, doing whatever it takes to be enough, people pleasing, not having boundaries, not putting myself first? Hell yeah, almost costed me my life. But I get it, because this teen didn't know any other way. This teen doubled down on a way to heal, which was a distorted way to heal. The goal for him was, if I can get a relationship to never leave me, then I will be worthy. If I can get them to love me and never not love me, then I'll be worthy. That's a battle that's so hard to win. It's impossible to win, but it's a battle he would very much struggle to put the shield down. So I love that motherfucker. I have so much compassion for him, because it's just like, it gets me emotional still, but it's like that. It's relentless to try and prove your worth, and it will destroy your life because of how much motivation there is to not feel wounded, to not be left, to not be rejected. All the while, if I keep rejecting that I even have this as an existence, if I hate that I'm a perfectionist, if I hate that I'm overworking and burnt out, then I'm really treating this part of me terribly, rather than understanding and trying to have compassion for it. Now, it doesn't mean we don't need boundaries. We do. But a parent needs to show up. This guy thinks he's a parent, but he's not doing a very good job for this little boy, because at one point, he's never turning inwards and actually seeing and hearing and understanding him and meeting him on his level. So we need this parent to reclaim that. We need the parent to meet this teen in the way that you probably need to meet a teen, which is like, I totally get why you're doing this. I get it. But you don't have to fight this way anymore. So, step 3, which I kind of just skipped, but let's just go over it again. How do I parent this part? My whole life I ignored it. I pretended it didn't exist. I was trying to be better than what it actually was. So I never actually met it. So technically I abandoned it. I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to face it. I was never willing to surrender to it. So imagine that's your kid. I don't want to have a relationship with this teen. He's a bit dysfunctional, but he's going to do it on his own. That's awful. And that's what I did for years and years and years and years and years. So when I did try to show up, I'm like, hey, we're not going to do it this way anymore. He was like, what did you say? Like, I've been doing this whole time. What do you mean you're showing up now? It doesn't work like that. So after a lot of work and really starting to meet and having love and compassion and deep understanding, and then some alternatives to how I'm going to parent you to then maybe we can team up and parent this little wounded boy in the right version. He sort of realizes how exhausted he is. The teen's just like, oh my God, yeah, it's tiring having to do this all the time. So he takes a seat. Exhausted. Then this leaves the adult. Functional adult can finally come in, get down on the level, and be like, you do matter. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that no one's seen you and heard you for so long. I'm so sorry that this is the way that you've been protected, but I'm here now and I'm not going anywhere. We can then do so much beautiful work because we've decided to change the way that we parent him or her and then meet the wounded child who was never meant to be alone, was never meant to think that they didn't matter. And this is the reclaiming work. So we get acutely aware, we meet the part with compassion that's been protecting and defending the system. We really recognize what's our relationship between this, how abandoned have we left them, or how much compassion do we actually have for them so that we can change it and heal, and then intuitively start to show up and protect in a very different way, allowing us to then parent both the teen and the child back to a normal place, an authentic place where we can lead rather than be led by either of these big experiences that are based on reactivity, fear, pain, and shame. We can come back through owning that we matter, owning that we are enough, and owning that we're lovable, or whatever those beliefs are for you. I have a training, it's called Why the Work Ain't Working. You might have done a lot of training. Maybe you haven't heard it through this lens. Maybe you're quite not grasping it still. That training will tick it over the edge. I think there's another YouTube video on it. And you can deep dive and join us, become part of a beautiful training program where you learn how to do this for clients through embodiment and owning it for you. And then we teach you how to do it. So that's Authenticate. Free training is on my bio. Find us on Instagram or come and join us in our communities. See you on the next one.